This is Serbia in 1512. We're the number 6 great power in the world. We own almost the entirety of the Balkans and Bulgaria is our subject, Byzantium already full annexed, and over in Anatolia we've crushed the Ottomans and the Mamluks and we're ready to reconquer Karaman and Syria's cores. Our economy is absolutely booming, making almost 18 ducats a month with very little inflation and no loans. We've taken aristocratic and religious ideas, an excellent pick for an Eastern Orthodox nation. Our army size is awesome, 24/7, and it is super powerful. We're allied to this massive Austria, massive Poland, and Bohemia, so we can take down whichever nation we please. And we're ready to go on to conquer the rest of the Balkans, the rest of Anatolia, crush the Mamluks, and go on to dominate the world. This is how you can do the same. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Serbia for EU4 1.36 King of Kings. So Serbia is a nation that starts off located in the Balkans in a pretty difficult position, and that of course is the reason many newer players are deterred from playing it due to the threat of the Ottomans looming down here in the south, Hungary to our north, and maybe some smaller nations that we can conquer right here, sure, but then of course the question is, where do we go from there? But even though we have this pretty difficult starting position, Serbia does actually have quite a few things going for it, starting off with this gold mine down here in Kosovo, which is gonna enable us to make quite a few ducats, and then of course we do have a unique government reform as well, the Serbian despot at tier 1 government reform right here, which gives us +1 tolerance of the true faith, minus 0.05 monthly autonomy change, and minus 10% war score cost versus other religions. Not too powerful, but it's always nice to have something unique. For a nation of its size, Serbia does have a pretty good mission tree right here, of course, giving us some modifiers towards improving our nation, getting a potential province back for free, which is a core of ours, and of course giving us further claims in order to conquer the entirety of the Balkans right here. Serbian ideas are also pretty good, focusing on the army and the economy pretty much, starting off with +15% manpower recovery speed and +15% reinforced speed, finishing off with +10% infantry combat ability, and in the meantime you have -1 national rest, -10% stab cost, -10% cav cost, +15% cavalry combat ability, +10% production efficiency, -15% merc maintenance, and +10% morale of armies. So a pretty decent set of national ideas right here. By playing as Serbia, you will go on to conquer your tiny neighbors around you, at least some of them, before getting a significant amount of allies, pretty powerful allies too, and going on to fight the Ottomans pretty much in the initial 15 to 20 years into the game, and then in just 2 or 3 wars versus the Ottomans, we'll be taking over the entirety of the Balkans, continuing to expand north and fighting other rivals, and then pretty much going on to dominate the entire regions of the Balkans and Anatolia before pushing further. So sit back, relax, and learn what you need to do as Serbia. Alright, here we are as Serbia, and the first thing we want to take a look at right here is our missions, because we do want to accomplish 3 or 4 of them pretty quickly right here. The first one we want to do is a Law of the Pious Emperor right here, which will give us stability and prestige, and the only thing we need for that is for all of our estates to be above 60 loyalty. Then we also need to build up our army to 100% of our force limit, which isn't going to be difficult at all, and then we need to have an alliance with Hungary, and they need to have more than 100 opinion of us so we can get that event where they give us back the province of Belgrade. And after that, we'll be able to take this mission as well for more local defensiveness, more mill points, and we'll even be able to move our capital there and bump it up to a level 3 fort. So in order to do all of these missions, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go into your estates and summon the Diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then what we're going to do is we're going to sell titles just like that. And now as we can see, all of our estates are above 60 loyalty. Then we're going to go into our missions and take the mission Law of the Pious Emperor, and boom, just like that, we gain stability and prestige. Now we're going to go back into our estates. Then we're going to give the patriarchs Clerical Advisory Council, Religious Diplomats, and Clerical Education. We're not giving them the +1 monthly admin points privilege. That's because due to our crownland ownership right here, we can only get 2 of those, and we need the Diplo one in order to develop the gold mine in Kosovo, and we need the Mill one in order to stay ahead of time in mill tech, or at least on par with the Ottomans and with our rivals. So those are the only privileges to the patriarchs for now. Later, of course, we are going to give them this one. Then we're going to give the nobility primacy of the nobility, increased levies, and aristocratic councilors, and finally, we're going to give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, commercial advisory board, and indebted to the burghers. Then we're going to seize land. Now it's time to hire some advisors. We will be able to run 3 advisors as Serbia as soon as we develop the gold mine right here. So get whichever level 1 admin advisor you want. A yearly inflation reduction guy is pretty good for the gold mine, so I am going to hire him. If you don't have him, don't worry, just get someone else. Then get a diplo rep or improve relations level 1 dip advisor. Get them even if they're a level 2 advisor. Luckily for me, he's a level 1 advisor, so I am going to hire him. And then get a morale, discipline, fort defense, or manpower level 1 mill advisor. I do have this morale and discipline guys, so I am going to hire the morale guy. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to scornfully insult a Hungarian rival. So just right click on Hungary right here, check out the rivals. In my game, it's Venice, Poland, and Bohemia, so I'm just gonna scornfully insult Venice. Don't scornfully insult Poland or someone like that. And there we go. There's a scornful insult on Venice, just like that. And now you should be able to royal marry Hungary, just like that. And after a month passes, or after you improve relations with them a little bit, you will also be able to ally them. That's perfect. Next, what we want to do right here is set our rivals. So go ahead and rival Bosnia, Herzegovina, and then whichever other nation you want. For me, Albania and Wallachia are available, so I'm just gonna rival Wallachia. And then with this third free diplomat right here, you should go ahead and start spying on Bosnia. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our military tab right here, mothball our forts, lower army maintenance, and also go ahead and hire the free company, just like that. Now what we're waiting for is for some of these diplomats to come back. Once a couple of days pass, you will notice that you are able to take the mission Moravian Arms, which gives you plus 10% manpower recovery speed and plus 10% national manpower. Go ahead and take it. And with this one free diplomat, you should also start spying on Herzegovina and keep the other one free in order to improve relations with Hungary to ally them, or to just ally them if you can do it immediately. And there we go, now I can ally Hungary. You may be able to do it in just a month or in a couple of months. After you ally Hungary, keep improving with them until you get to 100. At this point, you should also make sure to set your attitude towards the Ottomans as threatened. Something else we're immediately gonna do in our little game as Serbia right here is activate the Encourage Development State Edict in this state right here immediately, and we're immediately gonna start developing the gold mine in Kosovo up to 10 production. Don't use mill points on this, since once again we want to stay ahead in time on tech, so just dev it in dip and admin. Once you get more than 100 relations with Hungary, you will be able to take the mission Despot Stefan's Legacy, where if Hungary owns Belgrade, which they do right at the start, they get an event and they can choose to give it to us. In my experience, they do choose to give it to you about 80% of the time. In case they don't give it to you, however, I just recommend Alt F4ing and clicking the mission again. Let's see in my game right here, boom, there it is, and there we go, they did give that province over to me, which is perfect. That'll happen for you, like I said, about 80% of the time. After that does happen, you should also take the mission Fortress of Belgrade. We gain plus 25% local defensiveness there until the end of the game, a very powerful modifier, and 100 mill points. After that, you will also be able to take the decision Move Capital to Belgrade, where you gain some development over there, and basically move your capital there for 50 admin points instead of the regular 2 to 300. Definitely go ahead and take that decision. And there we go, just like that, your capital is in Belgrade, it's a level 3 fort, and it has pretty good defensiveness just from nothing. After you do this, you can stop improving relations with Hungary because we actually will be losing our alliance with them. This is due to the fact that pretty soon right here, we are gonna fight Bosnia. Obviously, we're spying on them. And Hungary does strongly desire Bosnian provinces about 99% of the time. So after we fight Bosnia and after we take this over, Hungary will break our alliance with us. That is something that happens in these latest patches. They didn't used to do this, but now they do. Either way, no big deal. Once that diplomat has freed himself up, start improving relations with Austria. Once you have about 15 spy network on Bosnia, make sure to raise army maintenance and activate your forts. At this point, you can also give your heir military command. He is pretty bad and we do want to get rid of him, but we don't want to take the prestige hit because that may make it harder for us ally nations. Once you have a claim on some Bosnian province, it is time to declare our first war, and obviously it's going to be versus Bosnia. 99% of the time, they're just allied to Silly, so you don't need to call in anyone. And there we go. There's your first war started. Go ahead and defeat Bosnia. While you're in this war versus Bosnia and one of your diplomats is free because he's not spying on them, make sure to start improving relations with Poland as well. While you're fighting Silly in this initial war versus Bosnia, like I said, they'll be in that war 99% of the time. You can also force religion on them to take off the age objective for later in the Age of Reformation. And of course, once your war with Bosnia is done, what you're gonna do is simply full annex them. And there we go. Just like that, that's Bosnia full annexed, and you'll also be able to claim this other Herzegovinian province, which is perfect since our second war is gonna be versus Herzegovina. Once this war is done, you can feel free to immediately declare war on Herzegovina. Usually they'll have no allies, or they'll be allied to someone small in the Balkans, basically Albania, Wallachia, Moldavia, Biz, Epirus, someone like that. But in my experience, they usually don't have allies or are allied to Wallachia. So either way, even though it might be a little more difficult than the war versus Bosnia, you're still able to win it easily. And there we go. There's your second declaration pretty much immediately after your first war is done. While we're in the second war, we're improving relations with Poland, with Austria, and with Aragon. There we go. During this war, Hungary broke their alliance with me. This is completely expected and normal. And there we go. I just pieced out Wallachia, and if you do end up fighting Wallachia as well, you might be tempted to vassalize them or something like that if you co-belligerented them, but I actually don't think this is a good idea. That's because Poland, after they get Moldavia, they usually go for Wallachia, which is pretty much what's happened in my game. So if you do end up getting Wallachia, Wallachia yourself, Poland will still desire that land over here, and that might make it difficult for you to secure an alliance with Poland later on. So that's why I recommend not doing anything with Wallachia if you do end up fighting them. Either way, once your war with Herzegovina is done, you need to check if potentially Ragusa has declared on them, and then vassalize Herzegovina so you can fight Ragusa as well, and then pretty much annex them without fighting the Ottomans, who of course they're being guaranteed by. If something like that happens, vassalize Herzegovina and fight Ragusa. If not, of course, you're just gonna full annex Herzegovina and you'll end up fighting Ragusa later on. There we go. It is better to end up fighting Ragusa, but it didn't happen in my game, no big deal. Now that you're done with your two initial wars, it is time to chill, work on finishing the developing of the gold mine, working on our economy, and working on alliances. Until we can get the big boy allies that we want, we actually don't have any wars to fight right now, because our next war after wiping out Bosnia and Herzegovina is versus the Ottomans. So we need to work on those alliances with the nations we've initially been improving relations with. You might not be able to do it immediately, it might take a couple of years, but don't worry, that's what we're doing right now. Once you end up having no allies after you wipe these guys out and basically bigger nations are available as your rivals, check to see which of these guys right here have some of your potential allies as their rivals. So if you take a look at Venice right here, their rivals are Aragon, which actually might enable me to ally Aragon quicker. So that's why I am gonna rival Venice right here. If the Pope is available, don't rival him. We actually do want to ally him later on. And right now, just as I've rivaled Venice, I am able to royal marry Aragon, which is perfect. After a little bit of improving relations with them, I will be able to ally them as well. So that's one of our three potential allies almost unlocked. The nations we want to get are Aragon, Austria, and Poland. Poland is going to be the most difficult out of all of them due to their diplomatic relations, but you should be able to get them after they annex Mazovia. Around this point, if you're having difficulty allying the nations that we need to ally, you can go ahead and check for some other allies that might potentially deter the Ottomans from declaring right away. In my game, actually, I can ally Bohemia right here, which is pretty nice. So I am going to ally like Milan and Bohemia or something like that. These guys are just temporary, and you shouldn't expect their help when fighting the Ottomans. It really doesn't matter who you ally over here. They're just little deterrents. Around this point, you can also send a scornful insult to the Ottomans, which will help you ally some of these guys we're trying to ally. In my game, it's going to work on Poland and Austria. And there we go. After that scornful insult on the Ottomans, I am able to royal marry Austria, and then I'll be able to ally them. That's perfect. Let's check the progress with Poland, and actually, I can ally Poland as well. As you can see, even though it might seem impossible to ally some of these guys, you will be able to do it pretty soon right here with the right improving relations, with the right scornful insults on their rivals, and so on. Once you secure the alliances with the relevant three nations that I've just mentioned, start currying favors with them in order to get them to help you out versus the Ottomans. As we can see, Poland would help with favors. Bohemia, of course, wouldn't. It's not expected that they would. They're just a temporary ally. You might not even get them in your game. I'm actually going to break my alliance with them. And then Austria, they would also help out by the use of favors. So I'm going to start currying favors with them, and I'm going to keep improving relations with Aragon. It's not always guaranteed that you'll be able to drag in all three of the guys that I just mentioned versus the Ottomans, but it is doable with just two. And in fact, it is doable with just one ally as well, as long as that one ally is Poland that calls in their subjects as well. But of course, the more the merrier. Don't forget that during this point, we're still improving the gold mine over in Kosovo. And there we go. In my game, I'm done, so I can turn off the edict. You may have noticed by now, but you shouldn't be in any debt at all. In fact, you should have a pretty sizable treasury since we're making money right off the bat. Now that Aragon wrapped up their war versus Tlemcen and that they're no longer rivals to Austria, which they were by the way, I was able to ally them. And that's perfect. That's all three of the allies that I need for my war versus the Ottomans on lock. Like I said, you may not be able to get all three of these guys, and that's completely normal. Don't worry about it. The one that we're most concerned about getting right here is Poland. After that, it's Austria, and after that, it's Aragon. So that's the order in which you should look to ally these guys. Poland, of course, is the strongest out of all of these allies, and if Austria gets Hungary as a junior partner from Ladislaus Posthumous right here, or even if they get Burgundy, then that's also a major boost for us. But now, let me take a look at the Ottomans right here. Will Aragon help me out? Is that alliance worth something? And in fact, Aragon isn't willing to help out right now due to the attitude towards enemies modifier, but that's not a big deal because Poland, as we can see, they're still willing to come in, and so is Austria. So those are the two guys you really need. Aragon, oh well, they're not gonna come in, no big deal. So now what we're waiting for is favors with the allies that are willing to help out. And potentially, if you want to, you could wait to see if Austria is gonna get Hungary as a junior partner. And of course, once we do get the favors with those allies, we're waiting for the Ottomans to declare on someone over in Anatolia. In my game, they've wiped out Byzantium right here, and now they're fighting Albania and Venice. So what we're waiting for after this is for them to fight someone like Chandar, Trebizond, Karaman, Ramazan, Dalkadir, Akkuyunlu. You know the drill. And yes, as Serbia, you will be lagging behind in admin and diplotech for your initial sort of 20 to 30 years right here. Don't worry about that. That is normal because of our starting rulers and the developing we're doing. Keep in mind, you shouldn't fall behind in Miltech. After you've curried favors with your boys and you're waiting to declare on the Ottomans, you can also start spying on them. Don't build a claim though. This is just so we can get some sieges done a little bit faster. And in my game, Austria actually did get Hungary, which is excellent. That does make the war versus the Ottomans a little easier for me, but like I told you, it is doable even if Austria doesn't do this, even if Austria doesn't come in at all. The nation that you really need is Poland, but that's perfect for me. Once you get Tech 4 in every category, you should go ahead and activate the Encourage Development State Edict over here in your capital state of Serbia and develop your capital Belgrade up to 30 at least, because it is pretty expensive. You can keep pushing further than 30 if you want to in order to spawn the Renaissance faster. Don't put too much mill points into it though. You might still want to get Miltech 5 even though you haven't embraced the Renaissance to help you out in your war versus the Ottomans. And speaking of the war versus the Ottomans, for me right now is the right time to strike, because the Ottomans have just declared on Karaman right here. It seems that Karaman is ally-less, so that's why the Ottomans declared. So this is exactly what you're waiting for, them to fight someone over in Anatolia. So when that happens, it is the time to strike. The first thing you're going to want to do is set some provinces of interest right here in the Ottomans, pretty much everything they own in the Balkans. Your allies won't transfer everything over to you, but it's still not a big deal. You do want to set these provinces of interest just like that for right now. There we go. That's pretty much everything that the Ottomans own. And then you're going to go ahead and declare a reconquest for one of your two cores right here. Let's declare for this one, for example, and you're going to call in whoever is willing to come in, especially Poland. If your allies aren't willing to come in during this point for some reason, then of course you're not going to be declaring and you're going to wait for another opportunity. But if I could call in even just Poland right now, I would be declaring. And actually in my game, AQ and Fezzan aren't willing to help out the Ottomans, which is perfect. A pretty good opportunity right here. You guys know the Ottomans as usual allies, and even if they get some bigger allies like Tunis, for example, it's still not a problem and you can still defeat them very, very easily. So there we go. Once the Ottomans declare on someone in Anatolia, you go ahead and declare a reconquest and call in your allies, and that's your first war with the Ottomans started. Try and avoid battles if you can. War is progressing pretty good. It's only been a couple of months and we're already defeating them. I am gonna get Miltech 5 ahead of time here, even though it's more expensive, to help me out a little bit in this war. And of course, make sure to upgrade your units as well. And it's also time for tier 2 government reform, and for that, I of course recommend strengthen noble privileges. Now, when the Ottomans defeat whoever they're fighting in Anatolia, of course, they'll focus all of their forces back over towards you, but that still bought you a little bit of time and you were able to siege down a little bit of the Balkans before they pieced out. In my game, I still haven't gotten any forts since this war started, but we're still looking pretty good right here. And as we can see, just by sieging down the entirety of the Balkans, you should have a really good war score. You can get about 80% war scores from just sieging down the Balkans. If you want to, you can continue to push into Anatolia or let your allies continue to push into Anatolia, depending on how powerful the Ottomans are in your campaign. In my game, they're not looking that strong. Only 32k soldiers and no manpower, so I'll definitely continue pushing. If, however, they're looking really powerful, you can definitely go ahead and peace out once you siege down all of the Balkans. And of course, pretty soon, I will show you what to take in your peace deal. And once you defeat the Ottomans and it is time to peace out, here's what I recommend taking. The first thing I recommend taking is obviously war reps, since we do want to make a little bit more money. Then what I recommend taking is the entire state of Macedonia right here. Obviously, these two provinces are our cores, so we definitely want to get them back. And then from these three provinces down here, we'll be releasing Byzantium. Then you should get one province to release Bulgaria from. In my game, that's going to be this province right here, which is right next to me, and it is occupied by me. Then after you get all of this and the war reps, you should also take the entirety of Albania if the Ottomans have already taken it over from Albania and from Venice, or at least three provinces here due to this mission right here, pacify the Albanian lands, where we need three provinces over there. So if they have three provinces here, take them, or all four of them, depending on how it is in your game. So those are the things that you absolutely definitely need to take, no matter how much war score you have. Maybe some of you stopped fighting them once you siege down all of the Balkans, and this is about as much as you can get. So this is the bare minimum. After you take this, you can take whatever else you want, whether it's more provinces for Bulgaria, more provinces for Byzantium, maybe money or something like that. It's totally up to you. In my game, I'm gonna go ahead and take a couple of more provinces just like that, and of course all of these are gonna go over to Byzantium. You can also not release Byzantium if you want to. They are gonna be pretty big and pretty powerful. Same thing with Bulgaria right here, so newer players might struggle to keep some subjects as large as this loyal, but don't worry about it. I don't think it should be too much of a problem because we're not gonna not do anything until we fight the Ottomans again. We're most likely gonna continue to expand over in these provinces that Venice owns, or if Hungary isn't a junior partner under Austria, we're also gonna go ahead and fight Hungary. So all of Macedonia, Albania if they have it, a province for Bulgaria, war reps, and then whatever else you want to. And that's your first war with the Ottomans done. Now that this war is done, you can simply go ahead and release Byzantium just like that, and Bulgaria just like that. Keep in mind that Bulgaria will pop out of our cores as well, but it's not a big deal. After the war is done, you can remove your provinces of interest if an ally is threatening to break their alliance with you. Austria was, so that's why I'm removing them. Now they won't break that alliance. Of course, now that you have 2 subjects, you can give the nobility strong duchies. After this war is done, it's pretty much time to focus on your economy, so you can mothball your forts, lower army maintenance, and with the sizable treasury you've built up, you should work on building some buildings. Of course, start off with the marketplaces in any center of trade provinces that you may have. Build them in your subjects as well. Those are going to be your provinces. I only have 1 center of trade. There it is in Belgrade, and with the rest of this cash, I'm going to build some churches. Now, the next couple of wars after we finish off the Ottomans could be any minor nation that we still border over in the Balkans. Maybe Wallachia still exists for some reason in your game. Now you could definitely go for them after you've already done 1 war with the Ottomans. Maybe Epirus exists down here, just like in my game, so you could go for them as well. But if not, you will be left with major nations that you can focus on, and that is most likely going to be Venice and Hungary. Like I said about Hungary, you are going to fight them if they're not a junior partner under Austria. If they are a junior partner under Austria, however, just like in my game, you're going to do that later after you already grow pretty big yourself and defeat the Ottomans 2 or 3 times. So if Hungary is alone, you fight them now. If they're not, you fight them later. Another nation, of course, is Venice right here, and you should be able to get some of your allies to help you versus Venice. Let's see, in my game, Bohemia would help me out. What about Austria? Austria wouldn't, Poland wouldn't, but still with only Bohemia, if they're fighting someone else too, we can definitely take them down. I've lost Aragon, of course, because they are a junior partner under Castile. So those are your potential nations that you can fight, and see whoever is the easiest to fight and go ahead and spy on them. As we can see, the economy is looking pretty good at this point in the game. For your first stage ability, I recommend Justified Wars. Now that a little bit of time has passed, I was able to ask Poland to reduce their opinion of Venice, and now they're willing to help me out. Let's see if I can do the same with Austria. Actually, they're in debt, so they wouldn't help out either way, but this is the perfect time for me to declare on them. Venice is pretty powerful in my game right here. They've expanded a little bit themselves, and they're allied to Naples, who's really powerful, along with Genoa, the Knights, and Trent. So this is definitely going to be an annoying war. The nation that's most likely to help you out versus Venice, and the best to help you out versus Venice, is Austria. Unfortunately, that's not happening in my game, but luckily I have Poland and Bohemia. So whenever you're ready to declare your next war, after you fought the Ottomans, whether it's versus Venice, versus Hungary, or any minor nation that you border in the Balkans, definitely go ahead and do it. And there we go. I'll just declare a reconquest for Cattaro right here, a Venetian province. War is going pretty well right here, but it is time to take Admin Tech 5, and when you do take Admin Tech 5, obviously it will be time for your first idea group. And for your first idea group as Serbia, I recommend Aristocratic Ideas, a sleeper pick, one that we don't take too often as pretty much most of these nations, but as Serbia it is very, very powerful. Now this first idea right here is plus 15% cavalry combat ability. That meshes very well with our own already 15% cavalry combat ability. Then we have a dev discount and manpower, which is obviously always needed. We have even more cavalry discount and cavalry to infantry ratio, which of course meshes very well with this one right here. The army tradition and navy tradition decay, and of course the diplomats and general discounts are excellent, along with the unjustified demands and cost to fabricate claims, and the monthly autonomy change and yearly absolutism also mesh very well with our national ideas and government forms. And of course the leader siege and nobles loyalty are very, very nice as well. A very good and underrated idea group pick, especially for some of these eastern nations over here. And of course policies that we have with later idea groups that we're going to take, such as religious, for example, for our next one, for the additional missionary strength and national arrest is really good as well. So aristocratic ideas for your first idea group. Now once you get an icon, whenever that is during the game, you will be able to take the mission Reform the Whatever right here, which gives you missionary strength and tolerance of the true faith. You could save this for when you're ready to convert some provinces, which I will be doing soon, of course, to these provinces I took from Venice. So there you go. And once your very annoying war versus Venice is done, what I recommend taking from them is anything that they might own over in the Balkans, along with the provinces province of Istria. So in my game, that's going to be my core in Kotaro. These 4 provinces right here, including Ragusa, which they conquered earlier while I was fighting the Ottomans. And then I'm also going to take Istria right here. And they do also own the province of Crete down here, which I'm definitely interested in. So I'm going to be taking that as well, along with some war reps and as much money as I can. And that's my war and your war with Venice done. If you're fighting someone minor over here, of course you're going to full annex them. And if you're fighting Hungary, what I recommend that you focus on is as much provinces as you can in the areas of Slavonia and Croatia. So that's one of your next possible wars after the Ottomans done. Now, if you have an opportunity to fight someone else, do it. If not, wait for your truce with the Ottomans to expire. For tier 3 government reform, you have a couple of options since we are playing with subjects a little bit now, and we're going to continue to do so depending on where we expand. Of course, if you go towards Anatolia and towards the Middle East right here, you are going to be getting additional subjects. If not, you don't really need it. So if you're not playing that heavily with subjects, do not take representatives of the crown. Instead, you can go with centralized monarchical bureaucracy or expanded royal court. But if you're going to be playing with subjects for the foreseeable future, definitely go with representatives of the crown. If you do end up having some disconnected provinces like I do, of course, make sure to build up some transports. Once your truce with the Ottomans is up, of course, it is time to hit them again. And something that you do want to look out for is to get the same guys that helped you in your initial war versus the Ottomans to help you out again. This is because if Austria, for example, doesn't help out right now and I don't take anything here, they could expand here themselves. Same deal with Poland. If I don't call them in and occupy these provinces myself, they might declare later on and take provinces over here. Of course, that's not going to be a big deal because you might end up fighting them later either way, but ideally, you do want to get these occupations yourself and get the provinces for yourself. So in your second war versus the Ottomans, what you're going to do is you're going to retake Byzantium scores and then something else for yourself, or Bulgaria scores and then something else for yourself. Not both of these guys, since we do want to have the reconquest and since we do want to push into Anatolia as well. In your second war versus them, you don't have to wait for them to declare on anyone. Now you're more powerful, of course you'll be able to deal with that. So in my second war versus the Ottomans right here, I'm going to declare a reconquest for one of Byzantium scores, Constantinople for example, and I'm going to call in Poland and Austria once again to help out. And in this war, I'm going to give them their cores back and take stuff for myself in Anatolia. Then in our third war, I'm going to give Bulgaria scores back and once again keep taking provinces in Anatolia. So that's your second war versus the Ottomans started. Of course, by now, you'll be stronger, they'll be weaker, it'll be way easier. War is going pretty good. While I'm in this war, I got Admin Tech 6, and of course, when you get to Admin Tech 6, you need to start building up those workshops immediately. And once you do build your first workshop, you will be able to take the mission, reissue the mining code, where we gain a dev discount and production efficiency for 20 years. Pretty nice mission. And once you absolutely crush the Ottomans in your second war, here's what I recommend taking. Obviously, like I said, either Byzantium or Bulgaria scores back to them. In my game, I'm going to be giving them back to Byzantium. So that's all of the Byzantine cores right here. These are the provinces. This one right here, that's both a Byzantine and Bulgarian one, just give it to Bulgaria since it's their culture either way, and it will make Biz smaller, which of course we do want them to be smaller. And then of course, after you give one of your boys all of their cores back, then you can take whatever else you want to for yourself. In my game, I'm going to take these provinces right here, which are neither Biz nor Bulgarian cores, and then I'm going to take these two provinces over in Anatolia, simply so it's easier for us to cross over there later on. And there we go. That's your second war versus the Ottomans done. In your third war, you're going to retake your other subjects as cores, and you're going to continue to push on further into Anatolia. Very, very easy. After you've given Bulgaria or Byzantium their cores back, you're free to go ahead and annex them as soon as you want to. In my game, we can see that Byzantium even got roads from the knights because Byzantine separatists rose up. This is something that happens pretty often. It can also happen for these two provinces right here. Now, once again, just like after we ended our first war with them, we're going to go back home and chill a bit, work on our economy, and work on expanding further into the Balkans if there are any nations left there to fight. A good thing about giving Constantinople back to Byzantium instead of taking it yourself is that it will go back to being Greek Orthodox instead of Turkish and Sunni. And now that Biz has all of its cores back, or well, almost all of them, they didn't get Lesbos or this one right here, I am gonna full annex them. Before you annex a subject, obviously give the nobility the integration policy so you don't lose any diplo rep and so it's a little bit cheaper. And there we go. I already have good enough relations with Biz, so I am gonna start annexing them. I'm pretty good with diplo points as well. If you're wondering when we're going to give the clergy the +1 admin point privilege, don't worry about that just yet. We're going to be doing that later after we get 40% crownland. Of course, you get crownland by conquering, by developing, by seizing. Make sure to seize whenever the estates are above 50 loyalty. And of course, as always, don't forget to lower autonomy from time to time. Now, like I said, after a second war with the Ottomans, you should fight some minor or even major guys that are left over that you can fight, but I've already defeated Venice, and for now, I'm not interested in expanding in Venice any further. In this sort of first portion of the game, the first 50 or 60 years, these are the two regions that you're focusing on, the Balkans and Anatolia. But I also can't fight Hungary because, as you know, they're still a junior partner under Austria, and we really don't want to mess with these guys until we're completely done with the Ottomans. So there's really no one for me to fight right here, except for potentially the Mamluks right here, because as we can see, they have expanded quite a lot into the Ottomans, taking quite a bit of land over in Anatolia, and even though they're pretty strong, as we can see, my ally Poland would help out, and we would be able to defeat them pretty easily. So even though this may not be too common for some of you guys, it may still happen. So get ready to declare on pretty much whichever nation is the easiest to fight in Anatolia and the Balkans. Now I'm gonna spy on the Mamluks to potentially fight them. As we can see right now, almost all of my estates are above 50 loyalty. If I summon the Diet once again, all of them are above 50 loyalty, which is excellent. That means I can go ahead and seize land right here pretty soon if they're still above 50 loyalty, which will finally put us over 40% Crownland, and we'll finally be able to take the mission, tame the magnates. Sure, there is a way to get this very early on, but I do think doing it like this isn't detrimental. There we go. Now I'm gonna seize land again, even though clergy rebels will rise up. There we go. There's the Orthodox guys, but more importantly, we are above 40% Crownland. When you are, you will be able to take the mission, tame the magnates. We gain a permaclaim on Macedonia and Albania, which you should own by now, and just like that, we can take the mission, pacify the Albanian lands as well. We gain a permaclaim on Dalmatia. You may already have provinces over there, which is perfect. Then you can take this one, capture Adriatic forts. Of course, the Bosnian mission is all the way down here for some reason, even though it's one of the first areas that we conquer, and you'll also be able to take this mission as well, which gives you permaclaims on these areas right here, which you should aim to conquer from Hungary, and you might already have if they weren't a junior partner under Austria. Then, of course, you'll be able to take this mission as well, which will give you claims on these provinces that Austria and Scilly own. Once you hit admin tax 7, it will be time for your second idea group, and what better second idea group rather than religious ideas as an Orthodox nation. Obviously, religious is going to mesh very well, firstly with the fact that we're Orthodox and the fact that there's so little Orthodox land over here. We're going to be able to convert very easily anything that we conquer over here, and it'll make for a super stable nation, give us that awesome CB, and of course the policies with it are super nice as well. So definitely religious ideas for your second idea group. Now that I've chilled for a bit, I will be declaring on the Mamluks with the help of Poland and their boys, and of course this is the easiest and probably the only other nation that I can fight aside from the Ottomans, while still focusing primarily on the Balkans and Anatolia. I can't fight Naples if you're thinking that. They're not an easy target. They're allied to France, a pretty powerful France, so let's not mess with them. So that's why there's the declaration on the Mamluks. You'll fight them sooner rather than later, to be honest, either after your second or after your third war versus the Ottomans. And there we go. We're focusing primarily on these provinces right here. For your tier 4 government reform, you should of course go with grant land to the monasteries, an excellent government reform for such a religious focused playthrough. Of course, I did forget to mention that after you get 40% Crownland and after you take this mission, you can go ahead and give the patriarchs religious state. And once your war with the Mamluks is done, depending on how much they've expanded, you can take whatever you want, specifically focused in Anatolia. Now in my game right here, I can notice a couple of things. First off, Karaman doesn't exist, which means there are a lot of course for them to reconquer over here, and more importantly, Syria does exist, which means we can't just take some provinces over here and release them, but luckily they are looking pretty weak, so I am already spying on them. So what I'm gonna do in my game right here specifically, first taking a look at these Karaman cores, is taking everything over here that's not a Karaman core, which are these 4 provinces right there. The rest, as you can see, are Karaman cores. Then I'm gonna take this province right here that we're gonna be releasing Karaman from. Then I'm also gonna be taking this province and these 2 provinces right here. This is so we can border Syria right here and then declare on them, vassalize them, and just give these 2 provinces to them. And then in our next war versus the Mamluks, we can give them back all of this. And then I'm going to be taking additional provinces that aren't Karaman cores, which are these provinces up here. And that's pretty much enough for now. I'm going to get war reps and some money. And there's my first war with the Mamluks done. And just like that, I'm immediately going to go ahead and release Karaman right here for that 1 province, and we can reconquer all of these cores for them. And I'm immediately going to build a spy network on Syria right here and immediately declare on them to vassalize them, to give them these provinces without coring them up, and then of course we're going to reconquer their cores. So there we go. There's immediately my declaration on Syria. During this war, I've also annexed Byzantium. And now that Syria has been very easily defeated, what I'm going to do is make them my vassal and take all of their money, and that means I can give them back these 2 cores of theirs. There we go. There's Grand Province for Aleppo, Grand Province for Antioch, and just like that, they like me a little bit more, and they have their cores back, and I don't have to core them, and we have two pretty sizable nations that we can reconquer their cores from the Mamluks specifically, and a little bit from the Ottomans. And speaking of the Ottomans, our truce with them is up, so it's time to prepare for our next war. And just as I was getting ready to declare on the Ottomans, Austria actually declared on them, and even though it said they were allied to France and Muscovy, they are not, because France and Muscovy did not honor that call to arms. Now, in my game right here, I have a couple of options. Of course, I could decline this, since I want to break my alliance with Austria soon either way, or I could accept and hope that I get some Bulgarian cores back. And if Austria gets anything over here from the Ottomans, I could also ask them using favors to give the cores back to my subjects. So really, there's no losing scenario right here. I'm simply gonna accept, and I'm gonna try and siege down as much over here as possible for Bulgaria. That's why you always want to keep an eye out on your truce versus the Ottomans, because Poland and Austria will be tempted to declare on them themselves, if they haven't already taken this in one of your guys' game. And Austria just peaced out with the Ottomans. As we can see, they gave Bulgaria 2 provinces, and they took 1 for themselves, but it's not a big deal that they took this province either, because what we can do with them is just this right here. Simply go into the return core province tab right here in the favors tab, and there we go. We can ask for this to be giving back to Bulgaria. And in fact, it's my core as well, because I did get an event for it earlier on from the Ottomans, so I can just ask Austria to give this back either to Bulgaria or directly to me. It really doesn't matter. Let's take it for ourselves, and there we go. It's already a core. And just like that, it's like Austria didn't even do anything. Of course, they did extend our truce with the Ottomans, which is quite unfortunate, but it is what it is. Oh, in fact, that's not the only thing that happened, because they actually gave me these 4 provinces right here. Now, that's actually not very good, because I noticed that just now when I got coalition. So thanks, but no thanks, Austria. Whenever you have the spare points, make sure to accept them culturally. And there we go. Just as predicted, Poland also declared a war on the Ottomans right here, because they're suffering to the Mamluks and to Chandar right now. But once again, it's literally not a big deal, because we're still allied to them. We have a ton of favors with Poland, which means we can ask them to give back Bulgarian cores to them, even if they conquer stuff over here. Really not a big deal. When colonialism spawns, this right here is the best province to dividend. It's a cloth producing province, a level 2 center of trade, so it is going to be super cheap. So make sure to activate and encourage development over there, bump it up a couple of times till you get to 15, then expand infrastructure, then keep deving. Only do this with the categories of points that you're already at Tech 8 in though, so Diplo and Mil in my game. And as we can see, Bulgaria has taken everything that the Ottomans owned in the Balkans, but if we go into their tab right here and ask them to return core provinces, of course they will accept. So we can ask them to return this one right here, for example. There it is. Let's wait for a month and see what else they'll give us. There we go. We can ask for this one, for that one right there. Apparently a pretty high dev province, since it's 30 favors. And let's see, we only have 1 more favor left with Poland, so that's it. We're gonna get these 2 later, but once again for free. No aggressive expansion with anyone, no coring, no nothing. And around the time you spawn colonialism, your realm should look a little something like this. Basically, we start off as Serbia in these provinces that we own right at the start. Start off by allying Hungary, getting the province of Belgrade from them for free, moving our capital over there before conquering Bosnia and Herzegovina. And after that, you should have worked to get some allies. Aragon, Austria, and Poland are some of the allies that we need to defeat the Ottomans in your first war. And once you declare your first war versus the Ottomans, you should have taken these provinces over here to release Bulgaria and Byzantium from, and then whatever other provinces you want, which you will most likely give to Bulgaria and Byzantium as well, along with some additional provinces right here if the Ottomans own them for yourself. After that, after crushing the Ottomans in your first war, and all of this time you've been developing your gold mine up to 10, you should have worked to conquer the rest of the minor nations located in the Balkans, or you should have fought Hungary for these provinces right here if they weren't a junior partner under Austria, or maybe you could have fought Venice as well for any provinces that they might own in the Balkans. After that, your truce with the Ottomans was up, you fought them in your second war, gave one of your subjects their cores back, expanded over in Anatolia a little bit, and then after your second war with the Ottomans, once again fighting any minor nations that are left, or maybe Hungary or Venice once again, maybe even the Mamluks if you've gotten a border with them like I did. And after that, you should have done your third war with the Ottomans, where you should have given your other subject their cores back, once again expanded more in Anatolia yourself, and you should have annexed one of your subjects depending on who you gave the cores back to first, Bulgaria or Byzantium. And this is what you should look like by this point. You should own most, if not all, of the Balkans, and you should own a pretty sizable portion of Anatolia yourself. And depending on who you fought and when you fought them, you may have some subjects that you're ready to reconquer their cores, such as Karaman in my game, for example, right here. I'm ready to take back these cores that are theirs from the Mamluks and the Ottomans. In Syria, of course, I'm ready to retake these cores that are theirs from the Mamluks. And by this point, you should be in a pretty good position. Of course, by now, we haven't only been focused on expanding and crushing the Ottomans and stuff like that, since Serbia does have a pretty good economy right from the get-go, especially due to the fact that we have this gold mine right here that we developed. You should have also been focusing on your economy heavily. I'm going to show off what my economy looks like by now, and yours should look something similar. These are all the centers of trade that are upgraded. Pretty much all of the ones that I own are upgraded to level 2. You will have done something similar yourself. I'm making about 18 ducats right now, very little inflation, very nice income from gold, and no loans right now, by the way, so we're ready to take new burger loans and develop our nation. These are all the marketplaces that I've built in all of the center of trade and estuary provinces. This is the only one I haven't constructed so far, so let's go ahead and build one right there. And of course, these are all the workshops that I've built in all of the high value trade good provinces, a bunch of churches as well. You should have looked to build something similar, and I do have a bunch more churches that I can build, and a couple of army buildings here and there. Nothing too spectacular, since a lot of these provinces don't have high value trade goods, but of course you'll be getting those numbers up very, very quickly once you start conquering Anatolia and once you conquer some other regions as well. And that is what my economy is looking like by now. Force limit, right, this is my combat width right here, 24, so the army is 2447, pretty good for now. And I do have this one fleet of 20 galleys and 10 transports ready to engage in some minor skirmishes over here in the eastern Mediterranean. Your army composition and your navies and stuff like that should look pretty similar to this point. And of course, after this point, you're going to continue to expand in the same directions we've already been expanding in. Like I said, in the first 50 or 60 years of the game, your primary focus is going to be the Balkans and Anatolia, so you are going to continue to conquer those regions. In my game right here, obviously, I'm going to continue to ask Poland for these 2 Bulgarian cores, and of course, after that, we'll be annexing Bulgaria. I'll be fighting the Mamluks right here to retake Kerman and Syria's cores. I'll be fighting the Ottomans just to clean them up. Chandar right here as well. Aydin later on. Genoa whenever I feel like it. Trebizond. We have a pretty sizable Georgia here too. And of course, in this direction, we're also going to continue to expand because the game does want us to take these 2 areas right here along with this one right here according to our missions. So after you've taken down the Ottomans for your 2nd or 3rd war, after that you can break your alliance with Austria if you're still allied to them in order to take these provinces from Hungary if they're a junior partner under Austria. But even if they aren't, you're still going to break your alliance with Austria because you do want to expand in this area right here, Carniola specifically, because we do need it for our missions and to engage in our foothold in the Venice trade node and in Italy. So after your 2nd or 3rd war with the Ottomans, you don't need Austria or Austria-Hungary. You're going to use the help of your other allies, specifically Poland if you're still allied to them, and maybe someone else to help you defeat Austria. So that's where you're going to continue to push into. You're going to continue to expand in the Balkans and in Anatolia, and once you take over these 2 entire regions, you're going to focus on expanding elsewhere aside from them. What I recommend expanding to would be Italy right here, the Mashriq, Caucasia, and Egypt. So maybe something like this is what you need to own in a pretty standard game as Serbia. Of course, if you're going for the Lazarus achievement, the only thing you need is the Balkans. No need to push on any further from that. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the extent of your expansion as Serbia. After the Balkans and Anatolia, push in any region around you and do whatever you want. You will be in a pretty good position. As we can see in my game right here, I'm the number 6 great power in the world, not too far off of Poland and France. Of course, as Serbia, you do have a bunch of monuments that you can take advantage of as well, especially as an Orthodox nation. You can definitely take advantage of the Rila monasteries right here, which is pretty good at tier 3. Tier 2 and tier 1 aren't that relevant, but tier 3 is pretty good. Of course, you will be able to use the Hagia Sophia, very, very nice at tier 3. The Parthenon is really good at tier 3 as well. So these 3 monuments right here, along with the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, all of these are really good right here. Make sure to upgrade all of them. They will help you out a ton. Any other ones aside from that aren't too helpful, and you might not be able to use them either, of course, depending on where you're planning to expand. This is what we took for our first 2 idea groups, aristocratic and religious. Like I said, a very good idea groups for a cavalry Eastern Orthodox nation such as Serbia right here. Both of these will help you out quite a lot. For your 3rd idea group, I once again recommend picking up a mill idea group that will once again mesh very well with your national ideas and with your government reforms and your missions and stuff like that. The ones that I recommend are quality and defensive. Funnily enough, defensive will be pretty helpful, even though lots of people don't take it for our 3rd one. It's better suited for your 1st one, for example. I do think it's pretty good, but quality is awesome as well. Even more cavalry combat ability, other combat ability. It's gonna buff up your boats as well, which will help you fight any nations that might be located over in Italy, the Italian guys, or maybe Castile, Aragon, and Naples. And of course, defensive is gonna be really good all around due to our defensive terrain that we start off with in our core of our nation right here. And of course, the morale meshes very well with all of the other morale modifiers that we're getting. So defensive or quality for your 3rd idea group, and then for your 4th one, if you're blobbing out a whole lot, I'm talking massive expansion, you could go with admin or diplo. But if you're going for a not that expansive campaign, pretty standard, something that I showed off like in this region right here, you could go for a money making idea group such as economic, infrastructure, or trade, whichever one you want to. So after aristo and religious, either defensive or quality, and then admin, diplo, or an economic one such as infrastructure, economic, or trade. The rest of the ideas are totally up to you. This is what we took for our first 4 government reforms. For tier 5 cavalry warfare isn't that bad if you're focusing heavily on Cav, but if you're not focusing that heavily on Cav, I recommend something like organized military staff, military engineering, or the defensive stance. For tier 6, I recommend aristocratic court, but when absolutism comes around, swap to royal decree. For tier 7, I recommend meritocratic recruitment. For tier 8, I recommend empowering the burghers or embracing the economic theory. For tier 9, I recommend the 6 books of the Republic or the social contract if you don't want to convert anymore, although I don't recommend this one that much if you've already taken religious. And then for tier 10 and tier 11, all of them are really good. Take whichever one you want. At that point in the game, you won't make a mistake with either one of them. And like I said, by around the time you spawn colonialism, your realm should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is going to go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Serbia from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.